Hi, today I'll be running through how to make a cel animation. Cel animation is a more traditional method of animating that uses paint on clear sheets of acetate. Now I picked up some of these 10.5 by 12.5 12 field cels. I got them on eBay from Cartoon Color Company. They're no longer in business, so I found someone had a backlog or something. Besides that, you can just Google blank animation cels, clear animation cels, but they can be a bit pricey. I did a previous tutorial where I used these heavy overhead projection sheets instead of animation cels, and it's a pretty fine alternative. Instead of photographing them, I scanned them with a printer, and I used a green screen effect to digitally layer them in Adobe Premiere, and it still had that hand-painted look. But today, we'll be kicking it old school. So here I've got my animation done on 3 hole punched animation sheets from Dick Blick. I used a light table here to trace my drawings and animate them, and I decided to experiment with lots of moving parts. You'll see in the background there's multiple loops going on at different speeds, and I made a little dope sheet to sort of keep me on track while I'm going. Organization is going to be key here, honestly. In the background, the plants move every 4 frames, the picture frame moves every 3 frames, and the TV moves just about every frame. It's gonna be hectic, but we'll see how it goes. Now I take these paint pens and trace my drawings onto the cels. Once your drawings are all traced onto the cels, flip them over and paint on the back side so the color will shine through on the front side. I found that the cheaper runny acrylic paint kind of works better because you just want to puddle your paint onto the cel. And you want a thick enough coat that you won't see the brush strokes, and it's going to give you a really clean image. Set your painted cels aside to dry. 24 hours should be enough, if you're in a rush. Okay, your animation is done. Now comes the fun part. The lighting took me quite some time to figure out. I tried desk lamps, I tried umbrella lights, and the only thing that seemed to really work were these softbox photography lights with fluorescent bulbs. You want to get yourself a dark room. The frustrating part is the cels are very reflective plastic, and any harsh light is going to shine right off of them. And if you have too much light in the room, you can see the camera reflected onto the cel, like a mirror. It's kind of tough, but what I found that worked was I bent the softboxes down and actually had the dissolved light kind of glow around the cel and light up the whole area. And it just tinker with it till it works. I mean, seriously, it's just kind of a pain. Get your frame set up, get your camera set up, check your aperture and all that. Make sure you shoot in manual mode with auto adjust light off, or it's going to give you a nasty light flicker and it'll ruin your day. Oh, it's go time. Let's do this. But first, get your protective gloves on. You don't want to get your fingerprints all over them. Don't be eating Doritos while you do this. Take a feather duster and kind of clean off the cels as you go. Take a frame off, put the next one on, so on and so forth. One other thing you can do is take a piece of glass here. I don't have the best setup for this, but try and keep it consistent. Put the glass down on top of the whole image there and flatten it all into one image. And the glass is once again another reflective surface, so it might mess up your lighting. So just another headache. Take your pictures there and put them into your computer, into your favorite video editing software. Put your sound in, do all that stuff. And congratulations, you got yourself a genuine cel animation. Howdy, this is a walkthrough of how I made a cel animation in 2024. this video serves as entertainment with some specific details for anyone aspiring to make their own cartoon with cels. Materials: animation paper, hole punched, 12.5 by 10.5. Sharpie brand oil-based paint pens, varying point sizes. Animation cels. Someone please find these for a better price. Paint. All of these worked well. I preferred the Liquitex fluid paint. Just get a light table and start animating. But for Mars Stars, I animated in Adobe Animate and exported the line work on white. In Photoshop, I set up a file in 12.5 by 10.5 paper size, which is the size of the animation paper, and placed a 4x3 border inside of that. Then I placed the exported photos and scaled them to match the border. Set up my print to a custom size of 12.5 by 10.5 and printed off each drawing. The printer used is the Epson Workforce WF7820. The hand-drawn feel still comes from the tracing. Thick markers for the outline, thin markers for the inside lines. Once the cels are inked, flip them over and paint the backside. I let them dry flat for a day and then place them on this drawing rack for a few days. Now that all the cels are painted, time to photograph them. I used Mount Dog softbox lighting. I pointed them at the top and bottom of the cel, facing at about 60 degrees or so they glow around the cel and light it up that way. Also, I put a dark fabric around the whole stage, which kept the light from bouncing around, and it worked as sort of a dark room. I used a Canon Rebel DSLR camera with the settings here, and also for every frame I took a piece of glass and laid it down on top of the sheets to press them down into one flattened image. I stepped aside and used a remote clicker to take the photos. In After Effects, I select the photos for the scene and use the image sequence to import them. Added some color correction and an effect called dust and scratches. Now that all the compositions are ready, put them into Premiere and edit just like any other video.
What can a dummy? Can a dummy try to smuggle space dirt across that border?
And voila, a cel animation. Thanks for watching, and that's how I made a cel animation in 2024. So on this channel, I've been doing a series on cel animation. I've done a few tutorials as I learn the process. I'm making videos, and I'm going to link those in the description. Check them out before you watch this. This is sort of an update on a few tips and tricks. So here's what I'm working on. The biggest change has been this glide gear top-down tripod. You just hook up the camera there and you can just shoot straight down, and it's just very much more effective than what I was doing before. You can see here I've set up a little bit of a dark room setting to kind of hold the light in and not get too much of a reflection on the cels. One other thing is this drawing rack here. Just didn't have that last time I made a video. Only thing is that the racks are kind of at an angle, and the paint was actually, when I put the cels on there to dry, the paint was actually dripping. You're gonna get dust and dirt and scratches on your cells or on your glass. It's just gonna happen. There's a great tool on Adobe Premiere called Dust and Scratches. I don't know what it does, but it's just perfect for this. Really cleans it up and just makes the image look great. And let's just take a look at what we got here. And I'm gonna keep making these tutorials as I move through here. I'm working on a project right now, and just stay tuned. Like, comment, subscribe. Alright, just coming on real quick, I wanted to show how I've got a bit of a multi-plane animation. So I got a piece of glass resting on the glasses, got the cell on top there, the usual setup with an extra light to light the top of it, and I can already tell that the glass is being a little bit more reflective in the photos, so I think I'm going to have to just up the contrast a lot when I edit the photos. So basically, you just take your cell off, and over there, the next one on, very carefully, and then move the background slightly. So I got these backgrounds that are extra big, and then we will see how that turns out. Hey guys, today I'm going to be running through how to make a short cel animation. Disclaimer, this is not the official old-fashioned way of making cel animation. I'm going to post a link to an artist who can explain a more traditional method in a clear way. This is just how I, in 2020, have found a fairly simple and fairly affordable way of making them. Here's some of my work. Cool, so there's 4 main steps. There's drawing, inking and painting, scanning and editing. Run through those real quick, and by the end you'll have yourself a nice cel animation with a hand-painted quality that we're looking for. So let's begin. Okay, so you get your light table, you get your paper. You should use animation paper. I don't always get it because it's kind of expensive. You can get your paper pre-hole punched, or you can do it yourself. So now it's time to actually start animating. It's good to start with a bit of a wireframe. Kind of keyframe, kind of know where you want your character to end up. So we'll say that's like the last frame right there. You have the loose outline. You can actually go in and draw the character. Now for inking and painting, 12 field cels are the recommended traditional method, but they're not very accessible and they're not very affordable. This is a good alternative I've found. They're overhead projection sheets. If you get the heavyweight, get the sturdiest ones you can get, and they're a pretty fine alternative. They'll get the job done and they're super affordable. So that's just what I'm using, and use whatever you want, I guess. All right, time to ink the cels. I got a white cotton glove on, and I'm right-handed, so I just kind of pull my sleeve up. It's really hard for me to draw with the glove on, so I just kind of like try not to get my hand on the cel as much as possible. But like I said, there's a slight quirk to these cheap cels, is that they have a curve to them on one side, as you can see there. This is only specific if you buy the cheaper cels, the fake cels, the overhead projection sheets, is you want to ink it on the curvy side. It's a little hard. You really got to kind of hold it down to make sure you get the edges lined up properly. So that way when you lie it down in the scanner, you paint it on the flat side, it's just a lot easier to line up. That's such a very specific problem. but get your paint pen.
And smooth lines. This is my favorite part, personally, but it is very the most crucial part, in my opinion.
Now that we have them all inked, it's time to paint them. So you just take your cel, flip it over, and paint the little backside of it. Alright, all the cels are done, and leave them here to dry for at least 24 hours. I'll hit the scanner. You may not feel it, but a whole day has passed. Now it's time to scan these things. Take your background, wipe down the cel. Line it up in there. Save it as a high-res JPEG. So I scanned this layer with the background together, and I'm expecting it to have a slight wobble to it just from moving around in the scanner. Now here, this is the complete frame. It's all lined up properly, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these layers and I'm gonna scan them on a green piece of paper. Notice I didn't use any green, because I'm going to key out the green on Adobe Premiere, and then I'm just going to be able to line that up like a green screen, and it's just going to make it cleaner and it makes it a bit easier. So if you have Adobe Premiere or something like that, get your frames all lined up and get them at the right speed that you want, and then take an Ultra key and key out the green, and then turn the contrast all the way up so you just have the can. Now put that in the frame and do that for all the other green screens. This character I just had to readjust a little bit. And that's really about it. Put the sound in and that's just about it. Making a digital animation look like a hand-painted cel animation. Now with this technique you can either draw your pictures in any sort of animation program, but I chose to do it on sheets of acetate. But here I'm using these overhead projection sheets. They're cheap. You still can see the dust and scratches on it, and it gives it more of a gritty cel animation look that I'm going for. Here I have my animation in two different layers. I have the character's run cycle, which will be looped, and that'll be the first layer. And then I have his torso as the top layer. Now I'm going to put these pictures into the scanner and scan them. And take those photos onto my computer, and I'm going to use Photoshop. So I'm going to either use a select color range, or you can just use the magic wand tool and get rid of all the white and just leave the black outline. And that'll be the top layer. Then the second layer on that will be the color layer. I'm going to use a wet brush, and I like that it smears the colors around, and it makes it look more like it was painted. Once you have your image painted, add noise to the paint layer as well as a drop shadow effect. You need to add a drop shadow effect on every layer. Now I'm going to take the painted photos into Premiere and layer them. So here we have the looped leg layer and the body layer, and put them on top of each other. You know, it definitely has more of a hand-drawn look to it. And that's really about it. So yeah, the main thing is the noise and the drop shadow.